Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I hope you're having an awesome day. Now we're going to take a look at Solana. Now this is just a technical analysis, there's no fundamentals here, and I'm just going to help educate you on best practice and hopefully help you find a good entry point so you can become a better trader and essentially be able to trade for a lifetime. Right? I don't want you to have to rely on me. I want to make sure that you are successful on your own. All right, now I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. I always recommend you do your own research, but I can tell you that I love teaching and I love helping other people be more successful. So that is my plan here for you. Also note in the description below, there is a link, well, many links rather. One for my Patreon account if you'd like to show your support, another for my Telegram and my Discord channels if you'd like to get engaged and learn as much as you possibly can. That's the whole point of this, right? As well as $25 in Bitcoin from Voyager. Reference that in your own time. But for now, why don't we just go ahead and skip all that. Let's go ahead and get right to it. Let's check out the video. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Solana. And before we do, as per usual, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum just so we get a baseline on the market so we know exactly what's going on, because really that matters the most, right? Here, unfortunately, Bitcoin has a firm grip on the market. So we just need to make sure we know what that looks like first. Okay, so we'll look at that and obviously just make sure we get perspective on things here. So this is Bitcoin. Oh, and to preface, I'm using TradingView application. This is on my desktop PC. Okay, now this is a 4-hour chart for Bitcoin. And we always look at the 4-hour chart first, kind of get perspective, because the moving averages I feel work the best. They give us the most indication, the best indications of resistance and support levels. So I'm using the 200, which is this purple line here, and the 50-day moving average, which is this yellow line. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom in there for you. I've got these support and resistance lines drawn out already. The previous resistance of 42,000, and of course 30,000 is the support. There are other smaller support and resistance levels, but we're not quite there yet. Thanks to Elon yesterday, we experienced a pretty significant drop, and it looks like the market is trying to recover. But good news is we've got the 50-day moving average that's working as a support level now, because this green bar will likely close above. So we're looking to be in pretty good shape here moving forward for hopefully the price to continue up again, depending on if somebody decides they want to send a tweet out there and everybody just sells their position because of it. That could happen. But you got to be strong, you got to be wise. We can't expect that to happen, or we can't anticipate it, but we got to hold true and hold strong, because unfortunately there's always going to be situations like that in crypto. It's unfortunate. Perhaps eventually Bitcoin will no longer be as strong as it is, but at this time, this is the catalyst, and this is what drives the price. So Bitcoin being up over the 50-day moving average is a great sign. We've got, of course, the 42,000 mark and the 200 to work with eventually. I feel as if when the price comes back up to 42, the 200-day moving average will be there waiting, and we'll likely see some type of resistance hold between 40 and 42,000. It'll probably create a channel and hopefully break above. Yeah, so that's the intent. If it will happen, I don't know. I hope so. It'd be great, wouldn't it? All right, let's move on to Ethereum, a 4-hour chart now. When we look at Ethereum, I want to just note that you'll see a very similar pattern to Bitcoin here. But cool thing is the price is essentially a little bit higher than Bitcoin, right? So if we look at the resistance level here at roughly 2,900, that's been tested multiple times. And it was tested 2 times recently, but didn't have a chance to break through because we all know what happened, right? So if that pending, that doesn't happen again, we should expect to see Ethereum come up and break once, Bitcoin decides it wants to continue upwards of 40,000 plus. Okay, so Ethereum's in really good shape, minus the fact that we do have 2 resistance levels, 2,900 and roughly 3,100. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Solana. And what we do first, if you're new to the channel, always look at the 1-day chart to get perspective on the big picture, and we work our way down. And taking a look here at the 1-day chart, we can see the 50-day moving average was working as a resistance, but is now kind of a support. So I believe that we should be able to close above at this point and be okay. So moving forward, we should expect to see the the price stay above $39, unless of course there's another Bitcoin sell-off. Could happen, but until then, this is looking pretty good here. And Solana's done very well in light of all the crazy stuff that's happened with Bitcoin. So the first major sell-off right here, by the way, this is when Bitcoin lost 15% in one day, right? So Solana is like, okay, we don't need your Bitcoin. We're going to take off and do our own thing. It did that, which is great. However, once we had the first Elon candle, Actually, correction, you know what? I think I'm wrong. The first yellow candle is right here. We saw a minor difference. Of course, that is, substantial. It's like $6, but we did see a decrease here, right? That was May 12th. And then the May 18th really impacted everybody. That's this big red candle. And what is that? Just curious what that looks like. That was a 120% difference in price in one day. So the price went up and down 120%. So, obviously a really significant day for all of us, and that was really rough. But generally speaking, it has recovered quite nicely because the average true range for Solana should be in the range of $42 to $50. Like, that's where it's supposed to be. It would likely be even higher right now if it wasn't for all the stupid madness that just happened, right? So that being said, Solana is still a very good investment, still a very good opportunity. I think that getting in under 50 is still a good value. But that's just me personally, because this is one of my more bullish coins that I'm invested in, and I feel as if they have really good fundamentals. Do your own research, obviously, before you invest, but I like where they are, where they're at and where their head's at. So that's the case here for Solana. It's a one-day chart. Quick look at the RSI. Big surprise, kind of right in the middle. RSI responds quite minimally on a large time frame like a one-day chart, so you don't see a ton of movement. We might see it eventually creep up towards 70, but for now it's right where it needs to be. 4-hour chart. Taking a look at the 4-hour here. So what's cool about the 4-hour chart is the fact that the moving averages have the most validity, the most weight. So as you can kind of see, look at how the price worked here, right? So it's a period of consolidation. Moving averages tend to stay in the middle with consolidation periods. It's crazy up and down. Price comes down, but now look at this here. Solid resistance level. So we see a pretty solid resistance here with a 50. And then, of course, look, it comes up here and it kind of bounces. So it created itself as a support level now, right? Once the price is above. And look at this even further. The 200-day moving average, which is probably the most impactful moving average you could use, specifically on the 4-hour chart. Look how this is breaking through. Okay, so that's really awesome. Let's take a closer look here. So look at that. See how hard it broke through there? That's very common for any type of moving average. When it breaks hard. You can see the same thing back here too with the 50. When it was first broken, it shot up and blew through it and then stayed above and worked as a support moving forward. Same thing with the 200. So the great thing is the 200-day moving average is a really strong support and resistance level, so that should help carry us moving forward. Bear in mind too, the RSI is coming up closer to 70. That's nothing to really be concerned about. What I would like to see, of course, is the price kind of consolidate for a few hours and then do another increase. I think that's very likely though, because again, the average true range is between 40 and 50, and we're just barely at the lowest point of its truest range. Okay. So that being said, still again, all things look great here on the 4-hour chart. Let's take a look at the 15 and kind of just quickly identify what's going on. Now, first thing I do if you're new to the channel is I like to turn off the volume weight average, the moving averages, right? The 200 and the 50, because they're less important, less beneficial on shorter time frames. You want to use the exponential moving averages on shorter time frames. So that being said, I get rid of those and then I enable my EMA, which is the exponential moving average. It's the 15. Most industries are going to use the 9 and the 20. I like the 15, so I don't have two indicators. I just get one that kind of splits the difference. But that being said, as you can kind of see here, it works as a resistance and support, so to speak, but also more so a momentum, right? So it's very similar to the MACD because the MACD has an EMA within. However, in this scenario here, instead of using just say a 12 and a 26, we're just using the 15, and it essentially is working on the price action. So I like this better than the MACD. I like the MACD on the 30-minute and the 4-hour chart timeframes. I think it's more effective then. But when it comes to 15 or lower, you don't really need to use the MACD. You use the EMA instead. So this EMA line is very beneficial because again, as you can kind of see, when it's on a bullish trend, look at this, for example, when it stays above, look, it keeps testing. So it'll test multiple times. So it tested here as well with a slight variance, so nothing to be worried about. And then of course you can see it just keeps on testing and testing until it reached its peak, and the RSI was likely up over 70 here. Yeah. So generally speaking, that's kind of what to look for as far as the EMA is concerned, right? It helps you identify bullish and bearish trends. It's more of a momentum indicator, even though it is still considering an average, which does still work as a support and resistance, right? So it's kind of a 2-in-1. So I really like it. So it helps me get confirmation and know that the price is heading in the direction I want it to head before I take an investment. Furthermore, with the VWAP line, this is the other one that I like to utilize. It is a volume weighted average price, and it's helpful because it tells you what the last 24-hour volume is expressed as a price, right? Now, do you see how it shows this little channel here and then it squeezes and then it starts over again? Every day it resets. Unfortunately, the way that the way that's calculated, it takes a 24-hour average in that period. It doesn't take a continuous 24-hour. In other words, every time at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, likely the same time zone for you, it'll reset. And what that does, it just kind of resets, and it resets the top and the bottom lines here. And those top and bottom lines are essentially the lines that tell you if the price is over exaggerated or extremely oversold. In other words, do you see how the price is coming up right now? Well, it's staying within these lines, so as long as it doesn't go above these lines, it will likely not retrace as hard as it should. So you can see here RSI is coming up over 70, as well as the fact that these lines got pushed down. That kind of tells us that the price is overextended and there might be a retracement soon. Okay. So the VWAP is great because it really just helps you understand what the average price should be, which right now is $39.58, whereas the price action is upwards of $41 approximately. So that variance, let's see what that variance is. It's not terrible, it's only 3%. Okay, so all in all, not a big deal. Don't need to worry about that. It could likely still continue on its run right now. But again, the VWAP is a secondary support and resistance level. So I've already mentioned the EMA line and how important it is to kind of identify when it's in a bullish or bearish trend. Your secondary confirmation is the volume weighted average price. In other words, if you take a closer look here, right, you see how the price came down and lost EMA. But right there, just below it, the VWAP was there to save the day. It held the price up. It's like, no, price needs to be at this point or higher, right? So it'll continuously work on scenarios like that. I mean, you can kind of see it here. It didn't drop too low, but it does still work kind of as a support. And it'll work the same way as well with as a resistance line when it comes to a bearish trend as well. You can see how the price is trying to break above here, and it keeps holding it down. So again, I use the EMA and the VWAP line pretty much exclusively on any entry. If I'm taking a swing trade, I look at the 15-minute chart and I wait for confirmation. So let's talk about confirmation, just to clarify so you understand what I mean by that. So let's just kind of look back here. Do you see how it's kind of consolidating up and down? It's a little choppy. I don't like to take entry at that point. I kind of just wait it out. But then once I see the price come up above the EMA and the VWAP line, I start paying closer attention. So the price is over EMA and VWAP right here. See, it's kind of coming up. And see how it comes over and it kind of keeps testing the line and staying above? That's a good sign. So it's not doing one of these. It's not chopping up and down above and below the lines. It's staying above both lines consistently, right? So to me, a good consideration for entry would be to wait 2 15-minute green bars. Now, I teach this in all of my videos because it works very well, and it's worked extremely well for me. As soon as I realized this and understood this, it's really made me a lot more money, but more importantly, just made me more successful, right? I have higher probability of winning trades than I would of larger gains, right? I'll take a lot of small wins throughout the day, and I prefer that. That's just my trading style. I'm more conservative. I have a tight risk tolerance. So that being said, just take a look at here. You see how these two right here are solid green, but they're below, so that's no-go. We don't take entry there. So a consideration for entry would either be just say here or possibly here, but I like this one the best, right? Because again, you get confirmation, you get 2 solid green bars, the price comes down, tests the EMA and the VWAP, and holds above. Awesome. Moving right along. So I would likely take entry around here in this range. Okay. Now do you see how the price comes up and it comes down and tests this line, rejects out the VWAP line? Perfect. Further confirmation you're on a bullish trend. So I would then add to my position right around here. And bear in mind, I didn't mention this before, but your very first position should never be 100%. The most I take on a first position is 40%, right? And once I get my confirmation, the price is heading the direction I want to head, and it's holding EMA and VWAP, then I add to my position probably another 30, right? So I've got 70% of my total available funds in this run right here, okay? Then what I do is I just keep waiting for the price to test EMA and to lose, right? So do you see right here where it kind of tests EMA and lost? Now I could do one of two things. I could sell my position or trim my position, or I can hold because of the fact that it didn't pass down below the VWAP line. I would likely hold because I believe in both these indicators. They work concurrently very well, right? So see, it's holding, and look, tries to break below right here, but then it breaks up and holds above again and continues. Okay, so I'd likely continue to hold this for a while. Now again, keep in mind, these are 15-minute bars, right? So we're talking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, to get to this point right here, this is almost, 6 to 8 hours, right? So what you could do if you don't have time to just sit there and watch it, right? Because I don't actually honestly have a lot of time to do this either. I'll check in and out, I'll get back and forth. But since this is like a short-term swing trade, what I'd probably do is set a stop loss. I'd set my stop loss at -1%. So in other words, once I've hit this goal right here and added to my position, I would take a look at how much 1% is. So I'd go down 1% right there. So let's see if I can zoom in for you. So right there. So let's mark this guy here. So just to give you an idea, this is my sell stop. Okay, so that'd be my sell stop right there. The reason why I do 1% is because I'm comfortable with losing 1% of my positions, right? And the reason why is because as a successful trader, I'm consistently gaining 2, 5, 10% at a time. So losing 1, 2, 3, 4 trades in a row at 1% is not a problem for me. That's what risk tolerance is. You never want to risk more than 1%. I feel 1% is more comfortable because of the fact that he's going to put you in a position where if you lose, you're losing small. Now, granted, there's always the argument of the fact that I'm putting in smaller positions, so I'm getting less wins. But that's because I like to add to my position as it gets closer to my goal, right? But again, my goal for every trade is to have at least a 2-to-1 ratio. I've already hit that 2% right here with my first 40%. Okay, so that's great. I love that. But as you get that further confirmation and the price goes up higher and you're starting to get those gains, you move up your stop, your sell stop, and you make it higher. That way, if it does come back and reverse down, you still get this 1%, even though you were up 2% at one point, right? So again, easier said than done. You got to kind of practice and use this. I recommend paper trading, doing something along those lines to try and see. TradingView has an awesome paper trading option. You just click on it down here, and it gives you an option to be able to trade for free with no risk, right? You can try these things out. But that being said, that's kind of how that works. So again, you add your position, and as long as you can leave and set your stop loss, and then when if you get closer to your goal, you're going to see it come up here, right? So again, that's kind of where I'm at. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll do that, and then I'll measure out a 10% or 5% gain, and I'll see, right? So this is 10% here. So hypothetically, had I set a stop loss at 1% and then created a 10% stop, basically a sell right there, then it would have filled right here when it popped up over that. Okay. So again, you can do whatever you'd like, but the best thing you can do is start with a comfortable risk tolerance, and as you get closer to your gains, you start moving your sell stop up to ensure that you're not losing all your gains, right? Because when you have this type of confirmation, heaven forbid you only get a 1% gain, that's still much better than 0 or losing the bottom and totally being out of luck, right? Either way, I hope I'm getting that across and that makes sense how I just described that. That's just a small example of how this works. Again, to hold on this whole time would have been even better, right? And if you're the kind of person that wants to set a goal and you can identify that, then that's even better, right? Because again, this is an obvious bull run. This is an obvious increase. And the main reason why is because the price was down for so long, it's gonna come back up eventually. So that's exactly why we look at the one-day chart, right? We see that big dip. Buy the dip, you hold, you can trim a bunch of earnings here, right? You can keep adding to your position, and it just works out favorably. So just keep that in mind. And as we can see, price for Solana is still cranking up, which is really great. That's pretty typical for Solana. Again, the price needs to be up in the 40s, possibly even 50s. So we should probably see that soon. Again, as long as Bitcoin can keep going sideways, Solana will keep taking off. All right, so that's all I have for you here today. Thank you very much for watching. Be on the lookout for some live streams I have coming up soon. I plan to start one tomorrow. And then, of course, I also have a Signal group that I'm creating through my Patreon. It's a premium Patreon account, so be on the lookout for that. Still fine tuning it, making sure it's going to be very user friendly and also very helpful. So I'll have that probably within the next couple weeks. So appreciate your patience on that, but I will get that soon. But for now, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.